You know, it's hard to believe that Michelle is already in her 7th year of ministry at MCC. And yet, on the other hand, it kind of feels like she's always been part of our staff. And it seems pretty obvious that God works through her to help our children and our adults, by the way, see Him. And if you ask one of our kids or children ministry volunteers or staff to describe her in one word or phrase, I'm curious what you would hear. So I did ask, and here are a few of the answers I heard. You know, heart of God, loves children, best partner in children's ministry, co-conspirator, intentional, committed, big smile, short, song leader extraordinaire, and real-life Disney princess in all the best ways. And it seems all of those are actually true. You know, this is a year that she has been looking forward to and dreading at the same time, because our elders have given our staff the gift of a sabbatical in our 7th year of ministry. Now, I've said this before, but I'm thankful for how our leadership cares for our staff. And while I would never say that ministry is more difficult than any other job, it is fair to say that we rarely are able to, totally set it down. And over time, that does wear on you. So as Michelle prepares for her time away, I will use the next few weeks to remind some and inform others about what sabbaticals are and the involvement. So here's some frequently asked questions about sabbaticals. So maybe it's a new word. What is a sabbatical? The word sabbatical comes from the Hebrew word sabbat, or as we know, it's Sabbath. A sabbatical is based on God's design for a Sabbath. It's a time to rest and reflect, to be renewed and refilled. The biblical precedent in Christian tradition is for pastors to go on sabbatical once every 7 years. What are the goals of a sabbatical? That's a great question. A sabbatical leave is a carefully planned period of time in which a pastor is granted leave away from his or her normal responsibilities in order to spend an extended period of time in rest and renewal and refreshment. So sabbatical leave is a time for pastors really to shift gears, to rest, disengage, reflect, spend time with their family, return to ministry refreshed, renewed in body, spirit, and mind. And it's a time also for us to examine and explore new ways to serve and grow and maybe to lead. So the sabbatical time has 4 purposes. Number 1, to release and relinquish. So during her sabbatical time, she will disengage from all ministry and all leadership responsibilities. 2, she will rest and recover. Rest means more than ceasing from all activity. So Michelle will concentrate on what restores her emotionally and feeds her spiritually. She's already begun to collect books that will help remind her to stop and listen to God. 3rd, we want her to reflect and refocus. She'll be listening for what God might be saying to her, scheduling extended time alone with Him. And 4th, it's about realignment and or reassignment. So it's asking God, what changes in my life and ministry would you like me to make as a result of hearing from you? So a lot going on, and next week I'm going to share what you and I can do to enhance her time away. Michelle will be on sabbatical from September 3rd through the 30th. All right. Hey, this Sunday I get to conclude our Ecclesia series by jumping straight to the last verse of the book. For the last few weeks, we've been following how God used Paul, who helped start at least 10 new churches in his life, Paul, who wrote 13 of the 27 books in the New Testament, who influenced people whose names appear on books in the New Testament, like Mark and Luke and Timothy and Titus and Philemon, and maybe some others whose names you've heard recently that you recognize, like Barnabas and Silas and Apollos and Aquila and Priscilla. You know, in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, when we consider the eternality of God's kingdom and the work that is done in His name, in terms of lives that are affected not merely for a lifetime, but for all time, it seems fair to say that Paul lived on mission. Well, why was that? And is it possible that what made Paul's ministry so successful and the legacy that he left that touched so many and changed so many lives for the sake of Jesus, is it possible that those things can be true of you and me, and even of what God is doing through us collectively here at MCC? So we'll talk about that this Sunday. Our Bible reading plan for the series was created to encourage you to read through the book of Acts twice. Our reading next week will finish our second time through by reading Acts chapters 23 to 28. And I hope that's been helpful to you. And I hope you've learned more and maybe even picked up nuances that you hadn't before in the book of Acts. Hey, listen, this weekend, whether you're online or on campus, I am looking forward to seeing you.